I want you to imagine this every single day. You wake up holding an invisible brush in your hand. And with every choice you make, what you think, how you speak, the actions you take, you are painting on the canvas of your life. The question is, what picture are you creating? Some people believe success is built on luck or rare, life-changing opportunities. But I've seen a different truth, both in research and in real life. It's the small, consistent choices that shape who we become. Of course, bold decisions can shift the course of our lives. But if you look closer, those big moments are almost always the result of small disciplines practiced over time. So if you've ever felt stuck, if you've wondered why your hard work doesn't always add up to progress, maybe the answer isn't to do more, it's to do small things differently every single day. Today, we're going to explore 10 of those disciplines, 10 areas of life that, when practiced daily, can reshape everything from your mindset to your relationships, your health to your finances. None of them are complicated. None of them are beyond your reach. But together, they have the power to transform your life. Let's begin with the first, and perhaps the most powerful one, your attitude. Attitude, the silent magnet. Every morning, before you even leave your bed, you're already setting the tone for your entire day. Your thoughts, your perspective, to the way you frame what's ahead. It's all shaping what will unfold. And the truth is, your attitude acts like a silent magnet. It's invisible to the eye, but it has the power to either pull opportunities toward you or quietly push them away. Think about the people you've met who seem permanently stuck in a negative loop. They wake up grumbling, complain about the weather, complain about traffic, complain about other people. You can almost feel their energy weighing down the room. Do opportunities chase after them? Hardly. Negativity builds walls that keep growth out. On the other hand, consider the people who radiate a sense of calm, optimism. They don't ignore problems, but they choose to see them as challenges that can be solved. These are the people others want to be around, to work with, to support. Their attitude opens doors that skills alone can't. Psychology backs this up. Research shows that cultivating optimism not only improves mental health, but also sharpens problem-solving skills and resilience. Your brain literally adapts to the way you habitually think. Train yourself to see possibilities. And over time, you'll notice more of them. The opposite is also true. Train your brain to dwell on problems, and soon all you'll see are walls, not windows. I'll share from my own journey. There was a period when I carried stress like armor. I thought focusing on everything that was wrong would help me stay prepared. But instead, it left me drained and reactive. Then I made a small shift every morning. Before opening my emails or touching my phone, I wrote down one thing I was grateful for and one possibility I was excited about. At first, it felt forced, almost fake. But slowly, the habit rewired me. My conversations changed. My patience grew. And oddly enough, people started approaching me with opportunities I had once overlooked. It wasn't magic. It was attitude in action. Here's the key. Attitude doesn't change overnight. You don't suddenly flip from pessimistic to radiant. It's built brick by brick, choice by choice. One day you choose patience instead of irritation. Another day, you choose gratitude instead of complaint. Over time, those choices stack up into a foundation that changes everything. Your relationships, your work, your health, even your sense of who you are. So tomorrow morning, before the world rushes in, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself, what kind of magnet am I choosing to be today? One that repels or one that attracts? The answer will quietly but powerfully shape the life you live. Communication beyond words. When most people hear the word communication, they immediately think about speaking, finding the right words, sounding confident, delivering their point with power. And yes, words matter. But here's a surprising truth. I've learned both as a psychologist and as a human being. The most powerful communicators I've met weren't the ones who spoke the most. They were the ones who knew how to listen. Think about it. When was the last time someone really listened to you, not just nodding along, not just waiting for their turn to respond, but listening in a way that made you feel understood, even valued? That moment probably left an impression stronger than any speech, because communication is not about filling the air with sound. It's about building a bridge between two hearts, two minds, two perspectives. The science backs this up. Research from Harvard Business Review found that leaders who practice empathetic listening not only earn more trust, but also create teams that perform better under stress. Why? Because people thrive where they feel heard. The same applies outside of leadership. Marriages last longer. Friendships run deeper. And even short encounters become more meaningful when empathy is part of the conversation. I'll give you a personal example. Years ago, I was in a meeting with a colleague who seemed withdrawn. I could have brushed it off and continued pushing my agenda. Instead, I asked one simple question: how are you really doing? And then I stayed quiet. That silence gave him permission to share something he had been carrying alone for weeks. That moment didn't just change the meeting, it changed our relationship. He told me later that it was the first time in months he felt someone actually cared. That's the hidden power of communication. It has less to do with eloquence and everything to do with presence. Of course, speaking clearly matters too. Words can heal or hurt. They can build trust or break it. One way to improve daily is to practice clarity without aggression. Say what you mean, but say it with kindness. Another way is to expand your vocabulary of emotions. Instead of always saying I'm fine or I'm stressed, learn to articulate what's underneath. Are you overwhelmed, hopeful, anxious, or excited? The more specific your language, the more others can truly connect with you. Here's the challenge. Spend one day this week practicing deep listening. Catch yourself when your mind starts preparing a response instead of paying attention. Pause it, breathe, and give the other person space to finish. Then reflect their words back, not as an echo, but as proof that you truly heard them. You'll be amazed how this simple act can transform the quality of your relationships. So let me leave you with, this communication is not measured by how much you say, but by how deeply you connect. And connection begins the moment you decide to listen, not just with your ears, but with your full attention. Self-discipline, the daily bridge. If attitude sets the tone for your life and communication shapes your relationships, then self-discipline is the bridge that carries you from where you are to where you want to be. Without it, goals remain dreams, and dreams eventually turn into regrets. With it, even ordinary people do extraordinary things. Here's what I've noticed in my years of observing people. Everyone has ambitions, but not everyone has discipline. Ambition is cheap. It's easy to say, I want to lose weight. I want to start a business. I want to write a book. But ambition without discipline is like a car without fuel. It looks good parked in the driveway, but it will never take you anywhere. Discipline is often misunderstood. It's not about punishing yourself or living a joyless life. It's about practicing consistency even when motivation fades. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the steady flame that keeps burning long after the excitement dies down. You don't build a strong body by going to the gym once with great enthusiasm. You build it by showing up repeatedly, even on days you'd rather stay in bed. The same applies to everything else: careers, relationships, financial freedom, personal growth. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who cannot command himself." That's a truth I've seen play out again and again. Real freedom isn't about doing whatever you feel like in the moment. Real freedom is having the power to act in alignment with your goals, even when it's uncomfortable. When you command yourself, you are no longer at the mercy of moods, distractions, or temptations. You're the one driving the vehicle of your life. I'll share something personal. For years, I had a bad habit of starting things with passion and never finishing them. New projects, new ideas, new plans. I'd begin with fire, then abandon them halfway. When the work became tedious, the result, a trail of unfinished attempts and a growing sense of frustration. One day, I decided to make a change. I picked one small project and promised myself, this time, I'll finish, no matter how boring it gets. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't fun. But when I finally completed it, something shifted. That single act of follow-through gave me a new level of confidence. It was proof that I could be consistent. From there, bigger commitments became possible. Discipline taught me that self-trust is built not on what you start, but on what you finish. Practical tip, start with micro-disciplines. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Read 1 page a day. Save a single dollar. These small commitments look insignificant, but over time, they build momentum. Each completed act strengthens your self-identity as someone who follows through. And once that identity takes root, you no longer have to rely on willpower alone. Your habits carry you. So here's the challenge today. Pick one small thing you've been putting off. Don't aim for perfect. Don't wait for the mood. Just do it. Finish it. Because every act of self-discipline, no matter how small, is a plank laid on the bridge to your future. And if you keep building, day by day, that bridge will carry you further than you ever thought possible. Mindset, beliefs, breaking invisible chains. Some of the most powerful prisons we will ever face have no walls, no bars, and no guards. They exist entirely in our own minds. They are made of the beliefs we carry, the ones whispered into us by parents, teachers, society, or even our own inner critic. And unless we learn to challenge them, they quietly dictate the boundaries of our lives. Think about it. How many times have you said to yourself, "I'm just not good at that," or "People like me don't succeed in that field," or "It's too late for me to change"? Those sentences feel harmless, but they are invisible chains. Every time you repeat them, you tighten the lock. The tragedy is that most people never even try, not because they lack ability, but because they believe they lack ability. Psychologist Carol Dweck calls this the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset says, "This is who I am, and I can't change it." A growth mindset says, "This is who I am today, but I can improve tomorrow." That shift may sound small, but it's the difference between living in a mental cage and walking into the open air. I'll give you an example from my own life. For years, I told myself, "I'm terrible with numbers." That single belief shaped the way I handled finances, avoided certain jobs, and even felt about myself. One day, I realized that belief wasn't a fact. It was a story. So I challenged it. I picked up a simple finance book, learned to budget step by step, and practiced until it became second nature. And you know what? The chain broke. I wasn't bad at numbers. I had just convinced myself that the belief was the prison, not my ability. Here's the truth. Beliefs are not carved in stone. They are thoughts repeated over time until we mistake them for reality. And if we created them, we can uncreate them. Every time you catch yourself thinking, I can't, replace it with I'm learning to. Instead of I always fail, I try I haven't succeeded yet. That single word yet opens a door where before there was only a wall. It's important to know that changing beliefs isn't instant. It's a daily practice, a rewiring of the mind. Just as you built your old beliefs by repeating them, you build new ones the same way. Slowly, steadily, you create a new mental environment that supports rather than sabotages your growth. So here's my challenge for you. Take one limiting belief you've carried maybe for years and put it on trial. Ask yourself, is this truly fact? Or is it just a story I've repeated? Then replace it with a new story, one that empowers you. Because once you free your mind, you'll discover that most of the limits you thought were real were never there at all. Time, the non-renewable resource. Time is the most democratic resource on earth. Every single person, rich or poor, young or old, educated or not, gets the same 24 hours in a day. No one can buy an extra hour, and no one can negotiate for more once theirs is gone. That's what makes time both precious and terrifying once it slips away. It never comes back. And yet, most of us treat time as if it were unlimited. We say yes to commitments we don't care about. We scroll endlessly. We get trapped in busyness without productivity. We confuse being active with being effective. At the end of the day, we collapse into bed, exhausted but uneasy, because deep down we know we spend hours running in circles instead of moving forward. I've lived that cycle myself. For a long stretch, my mornings began with checking emails and messages before I even had a chance to think about what I wanted from the day. I was already reacting to what everyone else wanted from me. By noon, I felt drained. And by evening, I wondered where all my energy had gone. It wasn't until I shifted one simple habit, writing down my top 3 priorities before looking at a screen, that everything changed. The clarity was almost shocking. I realized that most of the noise didn't actually matter. And when I protected my time, I felt both calmer and more productive. There's an important principle here, the Pareto principle, also called the 80-20th rule. It says that roughly 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Think about that. Most of what we do each day doesn't move the needle much, but a small portion, the key projects, the crucial conversations, the deliberate choices, creates the majority of progress. If you can identify and focus on that 20%, you'll feel like you've bought yourself extra hours, even though the clock hasn't changed. Of course, managing time isn't only about productivity. It's also about rest. Burnout comes not from working too hard once, but from mismanaging energy day after day. Time management experts now emphasize the need to schedule recovery, not just tasks. Taking breaks, moving your body, and protecting sleep aren't luxuries. They're strategies for making your limited time count. So here's my challenge tomorrow morning. Before you open your phone, pause for 5 minutes. Write down the one thing, just one, that would make the biggest difference in your life if you completed it today. Then build your day around that. Everything else can fall into place later. But protect that one task as if it were sacred. Because time is not just minutes on a clock, it is life itself, measured out in moments. The question isn't, how much time do I have? The real question is, how will I use the time I've been given? Knowledge, lifelong learning. The world we live in doesn't stand still. Technology evolves, industries transform, entire careers appear and disappear within a decade. What you know today may be outdated tomorrow. That's why knowledge isn't just power, it's survival. More importantly, it's the fuel that allows you to grow, adapt, and create new opportunities for yourself. Jim Rohn once said, Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. I've seen this play out over and over again. Some of the most successful people I know didn't have the fanciest degrees or the most polished resumes. What set them apart was a relentless curiosity, a refusal to stop learning. They treated life itself as a classroom, books, podcasts, mentors, mistakes. All of it was material for growth. Modern research backs this up. The World Economic Forum has projected that by 2025, half of all employees worldwide will need some form of reskilling. Think about that. Half of the workforce will need to reinvent themselves within a short span of years. The ability to learn quickly, unlearn outdated methods, and relearn new skills is no longer optional. It's essential. But here's where people get stuck. They imagine learning requires huge amounts of time or enrolling in expensive programs. The truth is, learning compounds through small, consistent efforts. Let me share a personal shift. A few years ago, I replaced just 10 minutes of social media scrolling each night with 10 minutes of reading. 10 minutes didn't feel like much. But weeks later, I had finished entire books. Months later, I was speaking about new ideas with confidence. That tiny change added up to a sharper mind and a deeper sense of progress. The brain, after all, is like a muscle. The more you challenge it, the stronger it gets. Neuroscience tells us that adults who continue learning new skills actually grow new neural connections. In other words, learning literally keeps your brain young. And the opposite is also true. If you stop feeding your mind, it atrophies. So what does lifelong learning look like in practice? It could be as simple as listening to a podcast on your commute, reading one chapter of a book before bed, or taking an online course in something you've always been curious about. It might even mean seeking out conversations with people outside your usual circle, exposing yourself to different perspectives. Growth doesn't only come from information, it comes from insight. And insight often comes from listening. Here's my challenge. Identify one subject or skill you've been putting off because you thought it was too late or too hard. Then take the smallest possible step toward it today. Watch a 5-minute video. Download a beginner's guide. Ask someone a question. Start small, but start. Because every new thing you learn expands not just what you know, but who you are. Lifelong learning isn't about filling your head with facts. It's about becoming more capable, more adaptable, more alive. So the question is, what will you choose to learn today that your future self will thank you for tomorrow? Finances, your daily vote for the future. Money is often one of the most emotionally charged areas of life. For some, it's a constant source of stress. For others, it's a symbol of freedom. But here's the truth. I've seen again and again, money itself is neutral. It's simply a tool. What gives it power, positive or negative, is how we choose to manage it day by day. Jim Rohn's advice has stood the test of time. Spend less than you earn and invest the rest. Simple. Right, but simplicity doesn't mean easy. Most people know this principle, yet struggle to live by it. Why? Because daily choices compound one unnecessary purchase here. A forgotten subscription there. A little debt shrugged off with, "I'll handle it later," suddenly. Financial stress snowballs. And when stress about money takes root, it spreads into every corner of life. Relationships, health, even self-worth. I know this firsthand. For years, I avoided looking at my bank statements. I told myself, as long as I'm paying my bills, I'm fine. But beneath that denial was a constant low-level anxiety. One day, I forced myself to track every dollar I spent for a single week. The results shocked me. Coffee runs, impulse buys, 2 fees, I hadn't even noticed. They added up to hundreds of wasted dollars each month. That awareness was uncomfortable, but it was also empowering because once I saw the leaks, I could fix them. From that moment, my finances stopped controlling me, and I started controlling them. Financial freedom isn't about deprivation. It's about direction. It's about telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. When you make even small intentional choices, saving 10%, cutting one recurring expense, investing modestly but consistently, you're casting a daily vote for your future self. And thanks to the power of compound interest, those small votes accumulate into life-changing results. Think of it like planting a tree. At first, it's just a fragile sapling, but given time, consistency, and protection, it grows into something strong enough to shelter you for decades. Studies also show that financial stress is one of the leading causes of anxiety worldwide, often ranking higher than health or relationships. Imagine flipping that reality, not by suddenly becoming wealthy, but by creating peace of mind through wise management. That kind of calm is priceless. So here's my challenge today. Write down every dollar you spend, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Notice what truly matters and what doesn't. Then make one adjustment. Cancel a subscription you don't use. Pack lunch instead of eating out, or set aside a small amount in savings. It may feel insignificant, but that single decision is a vote for freedom. Money won't solve every problem, but managing it wisely will give you the foundation to face life with confidence. The real question is not, how much do I make? The real question is, am I letting my money work for me or against me? Personal growth, becoming more. If there's one truth I've learned in psychology and in life, it's this. People are rarely unhappy because of what they have. They're unhappy because of what they're not becoming. We are wired to grow. When we stop growing, we feel stuck, restless, even empty. Personal growth is not about chasing perfection. It's about progress. It's about asking yourself daily, am I moving closer to the person I want to be? Jim Rohn used to say, success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. That simple idea reframes everything. Instead of obsessing over achievements, status, or wealth, focus on growth. Who you are becoming determines what you can hold on to. Imagine giving $1 million business to someone with no discipline, no vision, and no resilience. It will crumble. But give it to someone who has steadily built themselves through personal growth, and they will multiply it. For me, growth has often meant letting go. I used to say yes to almost everything: work projects, social obligations, favors, because I didn't want to disappoint people. On the surface, it looked like I was doing well, but inside, I was drained. Over time, I realized that constantly pleasing others meant betraying myself. Growth in that season. It wasn't about adding more skills or goals. It was about subtracting what no longer served me. Saying no became an act of self-respect. That small shift gave me the space to rediscover energy, focus, and creativity. The Buddhists say, when you let go of what you are, you become what you might be. I find that deeply powerful. Personal growth isn't just about stacking new knowledge or skills. It's about shedding old skins, outdated beliefs, and habits that hold you back. Sometimes you don't need to add anything. You just need to release what's been weighing you down. So how do you practice personal growth daily? Start with awareness. Reflect on your strengths and weaknesses. Ask yourself what habits are helping you and which ones are silently stealing your energy. Then choose one small action. Read one page of a book. Learn one new skill, or practice one new Mindset shift. Growth compounds through consistency. Here's a practical exercise I often share with clients. Write down 2 lists. On the first list, name 1 new thing you want to add to your life. A skill, a mindset, or a practice. On the second list, write 1 thing you're ready to release a limiting belief, a toxic relationship, or a draining habit. Then commit to those 2 choices for a week. Add 1, release 1. Watch how different you feel after just 7 days. Because growth isn't loud. It doesn't always announce itself. But day by day, it transforms you into someone stronger, wiser, more whole. So ask yourself this. When no one is watching, who am I becoming in silence? Because the person you are becoming in private is the person you will bring into the world. Purpose, the compass of life. Purpose is like a compass. You may not always know exactly where the road is leading, but if your compass is steady, you won't lose your way. Without purpose, life can feel like running on a treadmill, lots of effort, but going nowhere. You can have the job, the house, even the recognition, and still feel a gnawing emptiness. With purpose, however, even ordinary days feel meaningful, and even hardships take on a different weight. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the concentration camps, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. What he witnessed is still true for us today. Purpose doesn't erase pain, but it transforms it. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, how does this fit into the bigger picture of what I'm here to do? That shift changes everything. I'll be honest. There was a time when I chased goals without really knowing why. Bigger paycheck, chigné, job title, more recognition. And for a while, achieving those things felt good. But once the thrill wore off, I felt hollow. It was like climbing a ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. The turning point came when I asked myself, what is the real reason I want these things? What is the impact I actually want to have? That's when I discovered my deeper drive wasn't about achievement for its own sake. It was about inspiring and helping people grow. Once I aligned my actions with that, even mundane tasks started to feel purposeful because I knew they were serving something bigger than myself. The beautiful truth about purpose is that it's not something you find once and keep forever. It's something you discover layer by layer, season by season. Maybe your purpose right now is being a steady presence for your family. Maybe later, it evolves into building something that outlasts you. Purpose isn't fixed. It grows as you grow. So how do you cultivate it daily? Start small. Spend a few minutes reflecting on what truly matters to you. Write down what gives you energy, what makes you lose track of time, or what brings you a sense of deep satisfaction. Then ask, how can I take one step today, however small, that aligns with these values? Purpose isn't about dramatic leaps. It's about consistent alignment. Here's a practice tonight. Write one sentence that captures what matters most to you. It doesn't have to be perfect. It might be, I want to help people heal, or I want to create beauty in the world, or I want to provide security for my family. Keep it close. Let that sentence be your compass. And tomorrow, let your choices, big or small, move you one step in that direction. Because when you live with purpose, even struggles become stepping stones. Even setbacks become lessons. Life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you are actively shaping. So ask yourself, if everything was stripped away, what would remain that still makes my life worth living? That answer? That's your compass. Follow it. Gratitude, the daily alchemy. Gratitude is one of the simplest practices you can bring into your life, and yet it is also one of the most transformative. It works like alchemy, turning ordinary days into extraordinary ones, turning burdens into lessons, and turning scarcity into abundance. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to see the light, even while standing in the shadows. Science confirms what many spiritual traditions have taught for centuries. Positive psychology research shows that people who regularly practice gratitude sleep better, report higher levels of happiness, and even have stronger immune systems. Neuroscientists have discovered that gratitude activates brain regions associated with dopamine, the reward chemical. In other words, gratitude rewires your brain to experience more joy. But beyond science, you've probably felt it yourself. Think about a moment when you paused, even briefly, to appreciate something small, the smile of a loved one, the comfort of a warm meal, the sound of rain on your window. In that instant, didn't life feel a little richer, a little fuller? That's the magic of gratitude. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already here. And suddenly, the weight on your shoulders feels lighter. I'll share a personal season of my life. There was a time when nothing seemed to go right. Deadlines piled up. Relationships felt strained. And I carried stress like a second skin. Out of desperation, I started a nightly practice writing down 3 things I was grateful for. At first, it felt awkward, even forced. But night after night, the list grew. Some days it was big. Things, support from a friend, an unexpected opportunity. Other days, it was as small as the taste of coffee or the quiet moment of sitting alone. Slowly, my perspective shifted. I stopped ending my days with a list of what went wrong and started ending them with a list of what went right. That small habit didn't change my circumstances immediately, but it changed me. The power of gratitude is also contagious. When you live with gratitude, people around you notice. Your patience deepens. Your words soften. Your presence becomes lighter. Gratitude doesn't just improve your own life. It lifts others out of negativity and inspires them to see good in their own journey. One grateful person can change the atmosphere of an entire room. Here's the challenge tonight. Before you close your eyes, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand. It could be your health, the roof over your head, or simply the fact that you made it through today. Do this consistently for a week, and notice how your perspective begins to shift. Gratitude is not about ignoring problems. It's about giving your heart a stronger foundation to face them. It says, yes, life is hard, but I still have reasons to hope. I still have blessings to count. So let me ask you, what blessing are you overlooking right now? Look closer. Write it down. Because gratitude, practiced daily, is the kind of alchemy that multiplies the more you use it. And over time, it doesn't just change the way you see life, it changes the way you live it. The power of one small step. At the end of the day, it's not the giant leaps that shape our lives. It's the small steps we choose over and over again. A shift in attitude. One honest conversation. A project finished. A belief rewritten. An hour spent wisely. A page read. $1 saved. A purpose rediscovered. A moment of gratitude. Individually, they may seem small. Together, they create a masterpiece. Success is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. So don't wait for the perfect time. Choose one area, just one from what you've heard today. Act on it within 24 hours. Because when you commit to one step and then another, and another, you don't just change your days. You change your life.